In an unpredictable world, intelligence is only as powerful as the speed with which it becomes action. At Securitas, we combine data, technology, and human insight to help clients stay ahead of disruption. From geopolitical volatility to misinformation and AI, this is how we see risk differently.
Thank you so much for joining us today for Securiosity. We have an excellent panel discussion all about risk intelligence trends and projections. So I am fortunate enough to be joined here by this amazing panel. We have Raymond Fleck from Pinkerton, we have Tammy Wood from Securitas, and Michael Evans from our Securitas Risk Intelligence team. Before we get started, I want to just kind of go down and have each of you introduce yourselves. You have incredible backgrounds and careers all around risk intelligence, security expertise. So without further ado, I'll hand it over to you, Raymond.
Yeah, hey, thank you. My name is Ray Fleck. I'm a global account director with Pinkerton. I have 160 Pinkertons that are embedded in a global tech company. Before that, I was the global director for Pinkerton's threat management group, and I come from a background in the U.S. Marshal Service.
Hi, I'm Tammy Wood. I'm with the Global Clients Americas team, commercial vice president, and I've spent my career at Securitas. I've been here 16 years. I started as a district manager, a national account manager, so I've progressed through the ranks here at Securitas.
Morning all, I'm Mike Evans, Director of the Risk Intelligence Center. I've been here at Securitas for about 6 years. I started off as an embed within a client organization doing intelligence investigations before coming into the RIC. My kind of initial break in security was as an infantier before moving into like an intel role within the military. So I've been both a consumer of as well as a producer.
Excellent. Thank you all for joining us today. Mike, if you can keep that microphone, this first question is for you. From your perspective, what defines risk intelligence in 2025? And what's changed most from even 2 years ago?
So at the start of the year, we produced our annual intelligence estimate, which is a forward-leaning report that looks at the trends and the risks in the kind of global risk landscape for this year. And we coined the kind of theme for 2025 as unconventional. So I'm sorry you can blame us in a way. Looking ahead to next year, that theme is going to continue, but it's going to continue both at the high level trends, whether it's the big geopolitics word or kind of uncertainty, but more importantly, like on the front line as well. So how do we equip the frontline operators, the first line of defense with intelligence for them to make a difference on a day-to-day basis? So it's about bringing everything together and connecting the dots in the next year.
I love that, connecting the dots. Ray, Pinkerton sees global patterns. What's the number one risk factor you believe will catch organizations off guard in 2025?
Thank you. What I think is going to keep people off guard is geopolitical volatility, and that's matched with cross-border disruptions. That's where it's growing. It's no longer it's no longer a fringe issue. It's now a core business issue. And what we're going to see is we're going to see this take root in places that we haven't seen it before. We're going to see it in hiring practices and how we're bringing people on board, the talent pool, where they're coming from. We're going to see it in areas where the threats travel across the border and grow. Those are the areas that we're going to see it the most. And most business leaders don't see it coming.
Thank you so much. Mike, do you have anything to add to that? Anything that you think will catch people off guard?
I completely agree. I mean, the big word geopolitics, people sit there and go, how do I get started with that? It's such a big topic. Like, where do I begin and how do I then start to turn to something that I can use in my organization? If there's one thing, if anyone here is a little bit, where do I start with geopolitics? Just learn PESTLE. Just start with that. What is political, economical, social, and technological, legal, and environmental? Just start there and look at how that can impact you and just turn it into action.
Thank you. Tammy, this one is for you. You're on the front lines with our clients. You have been partnering with some of the world's largest brands. What are they asking for when it comes to risk intelligence?
So clients are looking for intelligence that can help them with their continuity of business. That's what's most important. That's really a return on their investment dollars in intelligence security. What is going to keep their supply chain from being disrupted, or what do they need to look for to keep production in line? So that's what they've been asking for. And then what to do with the intelligence, as you were just describing. It's great to have intelligent reports, but the advisory component is something that they're very much interested in. And then all the way to the end as to what can they do about it? How do we help them to mitigate that risk, so that end-to-end security program that's led with intelligence?
Wonderful. Thank you so much. This one is for you, Mike. Give us an example. We have converging crisis, supply chain, civil unrest, extreme weather. What signals matter most, and what does your team do to operationalize them?
Any and all. They all matter because they all build a big picture, which is your intelligence picture, which is both, the assets you need to protect as an organization, and as well as the vulnerabilities associated with all those things. So you have to keep an eye on everything. You cannot ignore any one thing. The one thing I think that is really prevalent right now, and you've touched upon it, is the polarization aspect. We do exist in a world of polarizing views. I mean, that is both outside of our organizations, which will impact, who we do business with, where we do business with, how we do business. But it's also inside the organization as well, which will trigger things like insider threats, workplace violence, etc. So there's no one thing that you should be, paying more attention on anything. It should be about paying attention is the one thing you should be doing right now.
Thank you. Ray, for you, where are multinational clients most exposed, and what early indicators travel well across borders?
That's a great question. Leaders aren't exposed where the threat's made. And I think that's really the assumption. Oh, that's where the threat's made. That's where they're exposed. It's not true. They're most exposed where the threat actually lands and metastasizes, right? So protective intelligence is no longer an issue of tracking where the threat occurs at. It's not. It's decoding the velocity and the direction of the threat. That's where the magic happens. And so for a leader, if you're looking at the fire, you're looking for the fire, you're already behind, right? The real professional is looking for where the embers are landing and where they're coming from in the direction.
Can you elaborate a little more on that? How does that work?
Sure. Well, it happens in a lot of different ways, right? Because the things that cross border are ideological comments and things like that. Those travel faster than the threat. So I'll give you an example because we saw this, a couple examples in recent history. United Healthcare, right? We saw suddenly the first real, I'll say, we see the beginning of assassination culture take root kind of in the United States, right? But what we see is one of the things that the offender, the person of concern does is he marks the bullet casings, right? Well, what do we see just a few months after that? We see that in other assassinations that have happened, even in the recent one with Charlie Kirk. Those are the things that spread and take heat, and those are the things that you could take note of in the protective intelligence world.
Yeah, go ahead, Mike.
Someone with a video camera that is not necessarily a security risk can have such a risk on your business that you need to be aware of it. And that's where you can turn security from being a cost center, guards on gates, cameras on corner, wires to connect the two, to being a competitive edge within the organization.
I love that. Does that resonate with you, Tammy, from your perspective?
Most definitely. And I think that that's exactly where the executives of our clients are looking for, not just the intelligence, but how can they weave that into their overall business strategy to ensure their corporate profits in their corporation.
Yeah. Wonderful. Thank you. Tammy, from your perspective, from a sales and client relationship perspective, what industries are leaning hardest into risk intelligence right now, and what trends are driving that demand?
Well, traditionally, we've seen a lot of pharmaceuticals and life sciences around the activism risks that you've had. But you're talking now about the tensions and the geopolitical rise of those risks as well. So heavily in the financial sectors, insurance companies, and traditionally energy companies, things like that, critical infrastructure. But what is interesting is the doxing of individuals right now that's really driving curiosity around intelligence for all vertical markets, because it's one individual that they now can attack and leverage to damage reputations of brands.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. If I can disrupt one supply chain, just one piece of it, I can target 5 or 6 or 10 in a global market. So,
Michael, this is for you. So, inside the Securitas Risk Intelligence Center, how do you shorten the time from alert to action?
So what we do essentially is the combination of a human analyst and technology. Like if you look around the show, more than ever, everyone is using AI and new digital solutions to augment what they do. It's what we do is we produce the intelligence through the combination of the two. To be clear, it is not replacing one with the other. And timeliness is key. Like speed is really, really important. And getting a notification to someone to say, look, we found something yet to be confirmed is really important. But if you think of kind of like risk and intelligence as a table leg, you've got accuracy, timeliness, relevance, and actionability. If you increase emphasis on timeliness, you decrease emphasis on accuracy and on relevance. And if any of you have played with AI, you will kind of know what I mean from a hallucinations perspective here. So it is the combination of the two and having a very clear way of working to say, look, we're going to emphasize timeliness here and also maybe caveats that this is something that's emerging and yet to be confirmed. But the way we do it is very clearly through that combination. You cannot replace one with the other.
Wonderful. When Pinkerton is working side by side with Securitas and a client, how do you avoid overlap and ensure seamless execution?
that's a great question. And I'm sure Mike's going to have some follow-up with this, and so does Tammy. Okay, so when a threat comes to the door, protective intelligence isn't just identifying a threat; it's to know who speaks to it when it shows up at your front door. And in these cases, every single time, clarity is going to trump hierarchy. That's how it works. So, for example, the client owns the mission. In the world that we live in, the client owns the mission. We own the call, right? We have to provide the right information to the client at the right time to make the right decision. And I think where we see it, and people think that it's a command issue, and it really isn't. It isn't a command issue at all. What it is we're synchronizing for impact. We've already tracked how we're going to respond, how we're going to escalate these security protocols when they come in. That's already the given. The question only becomes who takes the lead, and it really is pushed down to the decision-making level. That's the person who has to make the call.
Tammy, from your perspective, what convinces executives that risk intelligence is worth the investment?
I wouldn't necessarily say that they need convincing. Executives, their first duty is to protect their companies. So it's not so much as that. It really is being able to provide the right information. It's being able to provide the intelligence that they can then utilize in their overall business strategy. And it's the ability to enable their people, not just their security teams, but other business leaders within their company to use that. And then they see that value of the intelligence. And really being able to have a trusted advisor with the intelligence so that they can run the program from A to Z, to receive the information, the intel, to receive the advisory commentary that you provide to them, but then to also be able to leverage the capabilities to show up in 3 different countries when you need them to mitigate that risk. So really, it's the full program that the executives are interested in.
I love that. I'm going to go off the cuff a little here. We were in a conversation yesterday, and we were talking about just the wealth of information all of us have at our fingertips now because of AI. How do you sift through all of that information to figure out what's relevant, what's actionable, and important for our clients?
That's a really good question. And I don't want to repeat technology yet again. So instead, kind of looking at a real world example at this point in time, when we're working with customers, there is far too much information for them to deal with, which is why they've typically hired us, right? But what is relevant and what are the ones you should worry about? I've got young children, right? And I can kind of teach them about the internet and what's right and what's wrong in the internet. But ultimately, if you think about it, if something is too good to be true or something is too bad to be true, it's probably not. So the noise and the amount of information that is out there is we're never going to get away from that. It's actually just going to keep increasing. But it's how we then deal with that. And that's through things like critical thinking skills. But it doesn't need to be hard. We just take it in a very practical, step by step, and be that trusted advisor.
I think it's about that human in the loop, right? How do you have still that critical thinking, the human to understand and
Spot on.
yes.
I mean, AI is going to, and technology is going to give us increased speed, right? But it's all about the so what, that very elusive so what, the what if, and most importantly, as Tammy said earlier, what you can do about it.
Thank you. Mike, what excites you most about the future of risk intelligence in the next 3 years?
I think it is the transformation of security. Like it's going away from that expectation of us being guards on gates, cameras in corner, wires connected to. It's about doing security across an organization and transforming our profile within the organization, both as a provider and then working with the teams inside the customer and taking them to, we're trusted advisors to them, but they could be trusted advisors to their own organization. So you can be the ones who are the experts in security and risk, not just for operational security, but for when working with HR and legal and brand and comms and IT. That's the bit that excites me is elevating security within organizations.
Wonderful. Thank you. Ray, what's one global and national trend you're watching closely that you think will accelerate?
The number one thing that I think is going to accelerate is erosion of trust. We're seeing that at scale. It's no longer about, there's no single truth. And AI is making that more difficult, especially agentic AI. It's making it more difficult for people out there to understand what is the truth, what is real, what is not real. And it's some of the stuff that Mike talked on earlier when it comes to polarization. That's where we see the real challenge coming. Because once you've eroded the trust, you're eroding the employees that work for the organization. You have an insider threat risk, right? Once you've eroded trust, you have 30% of people now who think the federal government in the United States is doing things well. Once you take that trust away, everything else opens up. And AI is allowing that to happen at a scale that we have not previously seen. You ask about 5 years from now. 5 years from now, we're going to evolve 5 different times. That's how fast it's changing. And it isn't about reacting or stopping it from happening. We're not going to stop it. It's how do we work through it as it's happening? That's going to separate the companies that are going to be here 5 years from now than the ones that are here today.
Thank you. What's one thing that we have a lot of people here? This is a really hot topic across the entire show floor. What's something that people should be looking for when they're looking at different risk platforms and partners?
Oh, I think there are a lot of availability out there for information, for reporting. But when you're able to tie it all together for an intelligence-led program, all the way through the advisory section of the intelligence reports and all the way down to actually mitigating that risk. So it's nice to know that risk, to predict that risk, to prevent that risk, but then to also be able to act when something happens or act to prevent that risk is what's really important.
What are you most excited about, Tammy, over the next year or so from a risk intelligence perspective?
So I've worked a lot of my career with security guards on the front line. And what I'm most excited about is for the ability to leverage the intelligence for those guards. Those guys are going to just be able to elevate their skill sets and be able to really do more for their clients, for themselves, for their careers when they have this information. Information is power. So the faster we can get the information in their hands, everybody's got a cell phone, everybody's got a smart device, the more that we can use what's already out there and leverage that information for the guards on the front line, I think is really exciting.
Awesome. One last question, and this one is for each of you. what's 3 pieces of advice you would give everyone here if they're looking to start bringing intelligence into their security programs?
Platforms. All right. Let's start with that. All right. I will not when I go out and I look at platforms, evaluate platforms, I want platforms that will grow with my analysts, or my analysts can grow with the platform. If that platform doesn't come with regular training, touch points and stuff, I'm not interested. I don't want a platform that's going to outpace my analysts and it's going to be useless to them later on down the road. So that's number one, is evaluate the platforms you're using. Number 2, evaluate your partnerships. Very few companies out there can go it alone on every part of the security paradigm. Doesn't exist. Understand your platform, understand your partners, because the risks that your partners are exposed to will be your risk too. And you need to go into that 2020 vision.
I mean, for me, the 3 key steps I would do if you're just starting out today is, first off, what do you need to know? And go in, kind of map out your intelligence requirements, whether it's for you in the security department or your organization as a whole. 2, like off the back of that, then who needs to know? If you're going to go collect this intelligence, go produce this, who you're going to share it with. And then lastly, but certainly leastly, how are you going to use it? Just because you've got this great insight and you can share it with someone, what are they actually going to do with it? And whether that's connecting it to the guarding operation, whether that's connecting into more specialized services from an investigation perspective, or EP, or indeed getting into other departments in the business. So it's what do you need to know, who needs to know, and how are they going to do something about it?
Thank you. Tammy, anything to add?
Yeah, I would like to dovetail off of what you were saying about getting it in the hands of the right people. And I think business leaders are looking at how they can incorporate all aspects of their business into intelligence security, not just the security department anymore. How can we use that information for the betterment of the company and the protection of the company in other departments as well?
Thank you. Do we have any questions? We have a couple minutes left, and we have some industry experts here around risk intelligence.
Hi, Nick Puyals. I'm with the U.S. Army, about to enter the industry, and I'm just curious what you guys were thinking when not the Monday morning quarterback it, but there's a CEO caught having a affair with a fellow coworker at the Coldplay concert. Do you guys see that as a security risk? Or you talk about eroding trust. It's not a security industry threat necessarily, but what's your take?
First of all, sir, thank you for your service. So let's start with that, okay? Absolutely. The world has changed. And what happens is, I talked about erosion of trust. Every person that works for that executive is going to have an opinion on that matter, right? But gone are the days where our executives are now out there. They're in social media. They're a presence on their own. I won't name any of the companies, but if you just look back recently, maybe an alcohol manufacturer, maybe a manufacturer of electric cars, maybe a restaurant or whatever. It doesn't matter. There are lightning rods now, and what happens is we create echo chambers within organizations as distrust grows. So it's absolutely it's a threat vector for those out there in the world that would either usurp them and be the next X company or whatever. For those eternally who then want to bring it down or burn the world down anyways, those are the risks. So yes, absolutely, they presented a risk to their entire company because of their behavior. And those are the things that I was talking about that travel faster than the threat itself.
Thank you for the question.
From intelligence to action, from prediction to prevention, this is how we redefine protection at scale.